I guess we can get started. Kayla, did you want to go through any more of these, or should we just head over to introductions?
I think we are all set for introductions.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary Hansel, and I have with me Adam Furco. We're both landscape architects and park planners with the city, and we typically get involved in larger projects, bigger construction projects and renovations. We also have with us today Kayla Coleman, a community engagement specialist who will be helping us navigate our new virtual public engagement here on Zoom. And then we also have Dan Perot with Michigan Recreational Construction, who's our playground consultant. We have them understanding contract to help us with not only designing playgrounds, but also doing the installation and the actual construction. So they're really a wealth of knowledge as well. And just to give you a kind of overview of today, we're going to start with just going over some of the basics of using Zoom. I know a lot of people are familiar, but just touching base on how things will work in this meeting. We'll also discuss some of the standard meeting norms we have for public meetings here at the city. We'll let you know what expectations you can have of meeting follow-up from us. And then we'll do a brief overview of the project schedule and spend the majority of the time going through 3 different options we have for improvements to the West Park playground. And then we want to leave most of the time for questions, comments, and discussion. And then we do have a few questions we'd like to do some polling where you can actually vote and choose some options there. And then we'll kind of wrap it up just talking about our Adopt a Park volunteer program. And so Kayla, if you want to help us navigate Zoom.
Sure, thank you. So some of the information that I covered as we were just getting started is that the attendee microphones are currently muted, but we will get to points in the presentation where we're open for questions. And at that time, you can raise your hand, and through that feature, we will unmute you to allow you to verbally ask your question. So the raise hand option is most likely on the bottom, across the bottom of your screen, depending on what device you are using. And once you click that hand, it will light up as blue. That will indicate that you have a question. And when it's the appropriate time in the presentation, we will take those questions and enable you to unmute yourself and ask that. You can also submit questions through the Q&A window. You can do that at any time throughout the presentation. So please feel welcome to find that Q&A box that is at the bottom of your screen. Click that to open the Q&A window and type your question whenever it comes to you, and we will address that during the question and answer portion of the meeting. One other point, sorry, if you would like to submit a question through the Q&A and you want to mark it as anonymous, there is a checkbox to do that so that your name will not be associated with the question that you submit. All right, next slide. We do have some Zoom meeting norms. This is to ensure a civil and productive meeting. A couple of those I'll just head on quickly. We're going to start on time and end on time. We'll get through as many of your questions as we can during our scheduled time, which is from 7 to 8 p.m. We'll ask that you raise your hand to speak and move to a quiet area and speak loudly so that we can all hear you. We will be sure to address a question from each participant before allowing any repeat questions. And please be respectful of others' ideas and opinions. And finally, any inappropriate behavior or accusations would be cause for removal from this meeting. And if we've missed anything, please let us know. You can chat, include that in the Q&A or raise your hand and we can address any additional meeting guidelines that you'd like to follow tonight in order to use your time productively and ensure civility. Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla. And then just so all of you are aware, we will post meeting summaries on the park planning website, and they'll be emailed to anyone who provided an email address when you signed into this Zoom meeting. So we'll be following up with you after this meeting. And then we really appreciate you taking time out from your busy schedules. We know a lot of people are burned out with virtual meetings, and we appreciate you taking this time to provide feedback and input. We really value it. So we're all here today to talk about West Park Playground. We're not doing a full playground renovation, but rather just making some improvements to a few areas and pieces of equipment. We received some funding. We do get contributions sometimes associated with development projects. And so we had some of that development contribution money that we were able to use at West Park. So we were looking to make some upgrades at the playground. So the existing play equipment is in acceptable shape. So these are not issues of safety updates. It's really just looking for ways to improve and enhance the existing playground. And as far as schedule, way back in February, we had released a survey to kind of get your initial thoughts on what you liked, what areas you saw for improvement. And we were blown away. We received over 84 responses. So that was really significant. And we really appreciate everyone taking the time to fill that out. We had then originally scheduled this meeting back for the second week of March, which was right when the shutdown happened. So unfortunately, as we've all been dealing with the impacts of the pandemic, we had this delayed to be rescheduled for today. So we apologize for the delay, but we're very much looking forward to this project happening. And at this point, construction is probably going to happen in this coming spring, the spring of 2021. If there's any chance we can get it in this fall, we'll try. It'll probably just depend on what equipment we select. And just kind of some of the basics, kind of the overall themes we heard from the survey. A lot of people mentioned liking the existing merry-go-round or carousel. A lot of comments about the swings, the sand area. Some of the themes for improvements, we had a few people mention making the playground more accessible. A lot of suggestions for climbing activities, tunnels, monkey bars, requests for more seating in the shade for caregivers. And then some of the items that people would be open to removing or replacing that were existing were like the diggers in the sand, the dolphin sculpture, and kind of improvements to the sandbox. And so now I'm going to hand it over to my counterpart, Adam, to take you through some of the options we're going to present to you today.
Thank you, Hillary. So several of the options that we're going to get into have some different natural play elements. So I thought I'd run over kind of what that is. So natural playgrounds, they're made of natural elements, and they include stumps, logs, boulders, sands, things that you kind of find in the environment and allow for open-ended play. They're thought to create more opportunities for exploration, discovery, learning. It provides the children with the ability to kind of use their imagination a little bit more than scripted play, more than your traditional playground. And then studies show that natural playgrounds, they encourage more active play. They lead to extended playtime compared to the traditional play because they get to use their imagination a little more. And then natural playgrounds, they have these natural elements. They're still designed to meet accessibility standards. Hillary, I just lost your screen. I don't know if others did.
Can everyone see it?
I can still see it.
You can? Okay,
Yeah.
Adam, don't worry, I'll just jump in here. So here's just some images of the existing play equipment that you're all familiar with, the existing play structure, the swings, the tire swing, the dolphin climber statue, carousel or merry-go-round, and some of the sandbox diggers. And so the first option, some of the items that we're looking at adding equipment is, again, some of these natural playground items, such as the things we call Clamour Logs. These are actually fastened together, so they're sturdy, but they're logs just for climbing, inventing new ways, new games, new ways to play with them, using kind of these stump steppers, using boulders and other natural pieces, using natural edging along the sandbox to formalize it. And then Harry the Hippo is kind of just, it's an inexpensive ad, but it's something that we have in a few of our playgrounds here in Ann Arbor that adds a lot of play value. It's kind of a combination of a tunnel and a climber. So he's located in a few sandboxes throughout the city. And so when we look at it in plan view or kind of map view, here's the current existing playground, the play structure, tire swing, sandbox, and the existing swings. And so some of the things we're looking to do is we need to make some additional space for play equipment. As you'll see, all the existing play equipment has this kind of dashed outline, and those are safety zones that are required per safety standards. Like they need a certain amount of buffer space just between pieces of equipment. So in order to make some additional space, we were looking at shifting the sandbox kind of further to the, let me see, east here, closer to Chapin Street. And we're also looking to make the carousel or merry-go-round accessible, because the sand, while it's located in the sandbox, is actually not considered an accessible material like the wood chips. So the first option here now shown on your screen actually builds a new sandbox off to the east. It would have that Harry the Hippo tunnel climber in it. So then this area all becomes wood chips, and we're able to add those Clamour logs and those steppers in there as well. And so now the carousel is accessible with the surfacing, and we have that natural play element. And then part of this design also adds some additional seating. So we'd add 2 benches. There are some existing trees here, so this one would be shady. This one will kind of depend on the light of the day. This area is just a little bit more exposed. So this is kind of the first option with the Clamour logs. And looking at another option still along the natural play theme was maybe a log crawl tunnel. Again, just hearing lots of requests for tunnels. Seeing that lots of the children in the neighborhood were younger. We're looking at things that might appeal to them. So this option, again, looking in plan view, the changes are really focused in the sand area and to the east. So again, we kind of relocate the sandbox and then you open this area up for the wood chips safety surfacing and add the log crawl tunnel in. And then here we add 2 benches as well for some additional shaded seating. And then the third option is more traditional play equipment. So this would be actually adding an additional play structure, but it's for children 2 and under. So this is nice because it would actually provide a place for younger children to go so that they aren't sharing the main play structure with older children. Sometimes there can be conflicts just given the difference in ages and balance and the way they play. So this would be something for the younger kids to get started on. And as well as making an update to the sandbox. And so again, looking at the existing conditions, a lot of the changes happen down here. So we would be just minimizing the sandbox, bringing those wood chips to make the merry-go-round accessible, and then kind of fitting the new play structure in this open area. Again, you can see just given the footprint of these existing safety zones, we're kind of limited on where we can place equipment. So they all have similar themes, adding some of the natural edging, the boulders and logs around the sandboxes, but have some different changes in equipment. And I apologize, this one also, each option has 2 benches and there's a few options of where it could be located. And so now we would like to open it up just for questions and discussion. And I'm going to pull all 3 options up on the screen. I realize these images are a little small, but we can always flip back through images. So just to summarize, again, the first option, actually it looks like there might be a plan change. The first option was supposed to show here the Clamour logs with the steppers. The second option is really the log crawl tunnel. And then the third option is this toddler fun center. So those are the main differences. Otherwise a lot of them have Harry the Hippo still in the natural sandbox. So with that, I'm gonna let Kayla just review the process for asking questions.
Thanks, Hillary. So just as a reminder on asking questions, you can use the raise hand feature, which should be across the bottom of your screen. You'll see a hand, you click that, it will light up as blue, which shows that your hand is raised. You can click it again to lower your hand if you change your mind. But when I see your hand is raised, I will help you be unmuted to verbally ask a question, or you can submit a question in writing through the Q&A window. So you just click that Q&A icon from the bottom of your screen and type your question and submit that to us. So we have one that has come in already, and it is a comment, and this reads, "My daughter likes the log tunnel better than the hippo. We like the play structure for littles. Great idea. My son has been bounced nearly off that play structure bridge by older kids." So thank you for sharing that feedback. That is helpful to hear. If there are any other questions, please go ahead and submit those or raise your hand.
And you can also let us know if you'd like us to go back to one of the previous slides and maybe see some of the images larger.
And we do have a poll that is prepared to get some specific feedback. We could move into that now, and that may spur some further discussion and questions.
Yeah, that sounds good. Why don't we do the poll and then we can always open it back up for questions afterwards.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and run a poll. I do see Diane has raised her hand, and we've got a comment through the chat, so we'll get to that right after we run this poll. So the poll is going to show on your screen in front of you, and that I will go ahead and get that launched now. Give me just one moment here. So you should see that poll on your screen. There are 3 questions that you can scroll down through, and you can select the answer that you would like to choose. And once you've selected the answer for all 3 questions, you'll click submit at the very bottom. So the first question is, do you prefer the option of adding natural playground equipment or using traditional playground equipment? So you can choose natural, traditional, or a hybrid or other. The next question is, what proposed play elements do you like the most? And we ask that you choose 3 of your favorites. So those are natural clamber logs with steppers, log crawl tunnel, Harry the hippo, sandbox with boulder and logs, or toddler fun center. So you should select 3 options from that list. The final question is, do you want to keep any of the existing play equipment planned for removal? And we ask that you select all that apply. So you can select to keep the dolphin statue, keep the sand diggers. You could choose both of those by selecting the box for the dolphin and the sand diggers, or keep neither if you're okay with seeing both the dolphin and the sand digger removed. So we've got almost half of our participants, yep, we've got half now, have responded to the poll. So I'll keep that open. And in the meantime, go ahead and Diane, I've allowed you to speak. You should be able to unmute yourself if you want to ask your question while we wait for those other poll responses to come in. All right, Diane, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and speak.
Oh, my microphone is not working.
We hear you now. Yep.
Sorry I was late. I had my grandkids here. I'm excited for what's happening. I'm wondering why the spinner was taken out and if something like that can come back.
Diane, just to clarify, spinner, you mean the existing merry-go-round? Yeah, that actually remains in each option. I know you said you got here a little late. It's shown as this red dot
okay.
in each option, so it would stay. One of the things we're changing is currently it's located in the sandbox, which technically isn't an accessible surfacing. So we're expanding the wood chip surfacing below it, so it's to make it more accessible, but it would remain in all 3 options.
Great. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Okay, and at this point we have 6 out of 7 of our meeting participants have responded to the poll. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll so we could take a look at the results together. So you should see the poll results on the screen in front of you. So for the first question, do you prefer the option of adding natural playground equipment or traditional equipment? we have 33% of the respondents prefer natural playground equipment, and 67% prefer a hybrid of both natural and traditional equipment. The second question, what proposed play elements do you like the most? And choose 3. So these totals you'll see, add up to more than 100% because everyone got 3 answers here. But 67% of people chose the natural Clamour Logs as one of their favorite elements. 100% of people chose the log crawl tunnel as one of their favorite playground elements. 33% chose Harry the Hippo. 67% natural sandbox with boulders and logs. 33% toddler fun center. And finally, the third question, do you want to keep any of the existing play equipment that is planned for removal? We have 67% who would like to keep the dolphin statue, 50% who would like to keep the sand diggers, and 33% who are okay with seeing both the dolphin and the sand digger removed and would not like to keep either. So thank you for those responses. That's really helpful for the project team. So now let me navigate back to our Q&A window. We do have a couple additional comments and questions coming in. So a comment I see, we like the dolphin, but the nose is chipped. We'd love to see it fixed. So thank you for sharing that comment. Also a comment, the log tunnel blends better with the natural environment. And I think we saw that being widely supported with the poll. So thanks for that comment as well. If there are any other comments or questions, please again go ahead and submit those through the Q&A or raise your hand, and we'd love to give you the chance to verbally ask your questions. And as Hillary pointed out, if you did join late or if you missed anything and you'd like it to be addressed, we've got plenty of time here tonight. We could go back and look at some more of the plans a little more closely.
Yeah, so maybe while we wait for any additional questions to come in, I'll just reiterate, most of the play equipment would be staying in place. So the swings, the existing play structure, the tire swing, and the merry-go-round or carousel, those would all be staying. Each of these options does propose putting the carousel or merry-go-round into wood chips and kind of reconfiguring the sandbox. So the sandbox or sand play area would be smaller just because of that change, but we would still have it in a couple of these. We're kind of moving it to a different area than it is currently shown. So yeah, so this is great. I mean, the poll results are really helpful to see which equipment is resonating with people the most. And yeah, looks like we have a couple comments now. That's
right. So we've got a question here. Did the tire swing get big votes to keep? So
yeah, so the tire swing, that wasn't a question, or I guess I'm sorry, so the survey, yeah, I think we did get plenty of responses that people liked that. And, you know, again, that's something that's in good shape. Play equipment is expensive. So for some of these larger things that were in working order, we weren't looking at really removing those. You know, the existing dolphin sculpture, the sand diggers are smaller pieces of equipment and that are a little bit older. I know that sand diggers tend to wear out over time. So those were kind of some of the older pieces of equipment we were looking to replace.
Great, thank you, Hillary. There's a request for more trash cans throughout the park. Is that something that could be done through this project or through a different means?
Yeah. So that's something we'd probably handle through our park operations group. They handle maintenance in the park, so I'll definitely pass that comment along and add them to add some additional trash cans to the park for their route. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, we do keep a record of all the questions that were asked tonight and all the comments, so we'll be able to review those, make sure those are all taken care of and addressed. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And we do have a hand raised from Steve. So Steve, I have allowed you to speak. You'll need to click unmute, which I believe will be on the bottom of your screen. And then you can ask your question. So go ahead, Steve.
I have a question in regards to the these improvements, and this is great. So I'm happy to see that you guys are making efforts to make the playground a continual play space for families and kids from the neighborhoods near West Park. My question is perhaps larger or broader, and that is, what is the process to for the community to engage the city in regards to making the play structure or the play area significantly altered or modified in a way that might be more suitable for the entire park from east to west, north to south? Something more substantial than the changes that you're proposing here.
Sure,
Okay.
that's a great question. Yeah, so here in Ann Arbor, I think one of the things that people really value about the city is that we have a really extensive park system. So we actually have 79 different playgrounds within our small city. So our process for updating those, usually almost every year we make updates and improvements to at least a couple playgrounds. And some of those are larger renovations when those are needed. So we do inspect playgrounds on a regular basis for safety compliance and wear. We keep an inventory of when they were installed and when they're due for replacement. I don't recall offhand when this is due, but I know that there are definitely playgrounds in worse shape that are ahead of the rest of this playground for improvements. That being said, when this one does come down for larger scale improvements, we would go through a similar process in this typical survey, doing public meetings, and that would be a time where if there were interest in relocating the playground or changing it significantly, we could discuss that then. But yes, it's just a cycle, and because we have so many playgrounds to manage and update, it's not every year. It's not as frequent as maybe some people would like. That's also a good segue. I'm actually going to scoot down here to our Adopt a Park slide. So this is a program we have for people who are interested in advocating for park improvements, special projects, or even just volunteering your time to help maintain your neighborhood park. So this is a program that's run kind of separately from what Adam and I do, but this is another way to advocate for typically smaller improvements in a park. But you can work with the Adopt a Park coordinator to make improvements to maintain park spaces. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to get in touch. Their contact information is listed here, their email and phone number. But it's a great group of people. And again, because we have so many parks here at the city, we really appreciate the work that our neighborhood and community members do to help us. So thank you. I know that's a long answer. Hopefully I answered your question.
And Diane has a question. So Diane, I have allowed you to speak. You can unmute yourself. There you go. Thank you.
Having lived next to the park for 8 years before I moved just across the road, there used to be, there was an ice rink and there was a warming shed which had bathrooms. Now that's a big expense, so I'm not expecting that overnight. But when we go up to Hunt Park, even during this virus, and I had my 3 little grandkids, of course, everybody had to use the bathroom as soon as we left home. It was really nice to be able to have a bathroom, and it was impeccably clean. I just need to be grateful for that. And how do you put something in the hopper for long term? Once they took out the warming shed building and no ice rink, and now there's no bathrooms. I understand that when the homeless shelter went in, when I was still living there, that changed some of the dynamic. So maybe it gets kind of a different use than some other parks, but it's still a valuable thing to have a bathroom in a park where you have tons of kids. So
Definitely.
somehow throw that in the hopper.
Yeah, I'll make note of that, Diane, and I appreciate your comment. It's something we hear frequently. I'm a parent. I definitely understand the benefits of having a restroom nearby, and for any members in the community. It's definitely a big infrastructure expense. Putting, I'm not as familiar. It sounds like there was a structure in West Park previously. And so I'm not familiar, there might be infrastructure existing in the park that would make it less expensive. But there are some costs associated. So, so yes, we'll definitely take that into note. And then I'd also encourage everyone to get involved. This next year, starting in early 2021, Adam and I will be conducting our every 5-year master plan update for the Parks and Recreation Department. So this is kind of the long range master planning for the city. And so as part of that, we'll be sending out surveys, doing additional public meetings. So that's another great way to get input from the community and to kind of voice your ideas and interests for your local parks.
Great, thanks, Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
That's helpful to know that that planning process is coming shortly and it will be available soon for folks to be involved with. We have another comment, a question in the Q&A. Any ideas about how to create more separation between the driveway and the playground?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I know the driveway doesn't get tons of traffic, but it's a pretty highly used parking lot for the size of parking lot it is. More separation, I mean, the things that we can look at in playgrounds would be adding fencing or something similar. Because the playground kind of does have those existing kind of ornamental trees that kind of separate it a little bit, it does provide a little bit of a kind of a visual buffer that you're not quite up against it. That's the first I've kind of heard that issue, and so I'm curious if others feel similarly that maybe there's a danger there. You know, we tend to stay away from fencing just because it is quite expensive. But I'm trying to think, we could look into maybe like a split rail fence or something. I think we have some of those at some parks, and I'm trying to think if we have some out there. I'm trying to jog my memory, but I think fencing would probably be the thing we would look into. So that's something we can consider. I can go out there and take a look and see what it would cost to look at doing something like that. It would probably not be part of this project just because we have a smaller budget and we're kind of focused on the playground improvements, but something we could look at kind of long term.
Hey, Hillary. I know that Hollywood Park does have some split rail fence, so that it's an option over there.
Yeah, yep. And I know like Almendinger does and a few others. So, yep. Thanks, Adam.
Great, thank you for that question. And if there's others who also were interested in fencing, then it sounds like it could be helpful for the project team to get a better idea of the breadth of that interest. So feel free to include that in your comments in the Q&A window as well. So do you, Hillary, maybe want to cover some information about time frame for these changes and when decisions are going to be made and next steps in the process?
Yeah, so over the next couple weeks, we'll be kind of digesting what we heard, looking at kind of solidifying like a single plan going forward. And then I would imagine we'd probably send out our proposed single plan to everyone and kind of let you know what we're planning to do. If there are any additional comments, that would be the time we'd love to hear anything additional back on that. And then, like I mentioned, construction, it'll probably be difficult to get it in before the frost hits this year. So we'll likely be looking at sometime in the spring. And we can keep, now that we have everyone's email addresses, we can kind of keep the neighborhood abreast of when we'll be starting construction and when to kind of expect that to occur. Fortunately, because these are smaller improvements, I wouldn't expect construction to take very long. You know, weather permitting, maybe sometime in the 2 to 3 week range. So while there would likely be at least parts of the playground that are shut down during that time, it shouldn't be a huge inconvenience, hopefully.
Thanks, Hillary. And related to that, as you mentioned, email addresses and how we'll be keeping in touch. So when you joined the Zoom meeting, you were asked to provide a name and an email address. So that email address you provided, we will add to the email subscription to receive the parks updates. If you would like a different email address that was not provided when you entered the meeting, if you'd like a different email address added to our subscription list, you can write that in the Q&A window and we will add that. We will not share that publicly, but we will record that for our use on the email updates. If you provided an email address when you entered the meeting and you do not want to be added to the email list, there is an unsubscribe option, which will easily get you removed from that. But you can also just let us know right now, and you can type that into the Q&A as well, and let us know you do not want to be added to the list, and we will respect that wish. Thank you.
Great. And if there's no other questions, I'm going to scroll down here and just be sure, to get my contact information up. So if anyone has any additional questions, I know I've already received a few emails. So please feel free to email, call. I'd be happy to talk further with you and hear any additional thoughts you might have after the meeting. So thank you all for coming. We really appreciate you taking this time out for your busy days, and we definitely appreciate hearing the input and feedback. We know you're all using this park frequently and know it as well as anyone, so we appreciate you sharing your knowledge and insights with us.
And so we will keep the meeting open. I think most of the project team will go ahead and enjoy the rest of their evening. I will keep this meeting open until 8 o'clock, which was our scheduled meeting time. In case any other community members should join later, I can direct them to the right information to share additional follow-up. But you all are free to enjoy your evening as well. And thank you, as I'll echo what Hillary has said already, thank you for taking time to join us tonight and share your feedback. It's very meaningful. And you can always reach out with the contact info on the screen in front of you to share any other thoughts that you might have about the playground improvements. Thank you very much. Hi, Diana. I see you had an additional question.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say that I probably have some photographs. My older son is now 40, and I have photographs, I think, of the play area, a few from the spray fountain that doesn't exist anymore. I have to dig them up, and if somebody would like to see them or archive them, I'm happy to share them. First, I have to find them, but we used to have birthday parties there quite often, and it was great. It was really nice. And the city used to have a summer program. You know, a lot of low income families lived near the park, and Mr. Jewett, who's no longer with us, Coleman Jewett, used to manage that plan. And they, you know, in that shelter, that warming shelter, there was an outside area and lunches were served, and you know, games were played. And to be honest, he kept the spray fountain open longer hours so that kids could have a place to play. And it was really wonderful to live there. That was in the 80s. And I don't know the demographic of the neighborhood now, but I'm sure there's still low income families that live there. So I think the park is a real important part of the community. And also, I think the hippo is so ugly, I can't stand it. So I'm glad it didn't get a lot of support. No offense, but anyway, thank you.
No, thank you, Diana. Appreciate you sharing that additional history and background. That's always nice to have some context. And I think it's, I bet that the parks team would love to see those photos that you mentioned.
Okay. I will look for that. Thank you.
Thanks for your participation, Diana. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. And we do have another comment that's come in. I've lived here for 16 years behind the baseball diamond. Thank you for your work on us all. Thank you. Just some appreciation for the meeting. So because Diane mentioned the word demographic, it did jog my memory. We do have a demographic questionnaire that we like to make available. And it was posted at the very beginning of the meeting for anyone who had joined early. And I've now launched it again, and you should see on the screen in front of you a quick demographic questionnaire. This is optional. This is anonymous. Your name will not be tied in any way to your responses. But this just helps give the city a better idea of who we're hearing from, so we can do a better job of reaching out to those that are not participating in our public engagement and provide more inclusive engagement opportunities. So before you head out, if you can take a minute to give us just one more minute of your time and provide answers to those questions, and then as you scroll down, you'll answer 8 questions and hit submit at the very bottom. I do see that we have one additional person who has joined in the last couple minutes. We did complete the presentation content and have made it through all of the questions that came in through the Q&A and through verbal hand-raised questions. But if you have any other feedback you'd like to submit, I can take those comments and questions now and record those for the project team. The meeting has also been recorded, and that will be posted to the project website. So no worries at all if you've missed the presentation content. It'll be available to you, and you can submit feedback after this meeting. And thank you, Sarah. I see your comment there. Appreciate it. So with that, once you've completed your demographic questionnaire, please feel free to go ahead and enjoy your evening. As I stated, I will leave this window open just in case we have anyone else pop in. I'll let them know about the recording being available. But thank you for your time.